So connecting with deities, connecting with ancestors, connecting with your guides, it's something that's done across all indigenous cultures around the world. It's done in many different ways in different cultures, but when you look at the fundamentals of the practice, it's ultimately all the same. Connecting with spirits in African culture happens on different levels. First of all, there's connecting with your higher self, which is basically connecting with your astral body, because your body is basically a physical address which your spirit resides in. Your body is like it's like a house that houses your spirit. You can make a stronger connection with your astral body, with your spirit, which then helps to raise your intuition, because you're ultimately an energy that continues after your physical body dies. Even science confirms that energy doesn't die, it transfers. So in this way, we're also able to connect with our deceased loved ones, because their energy also continues. In most cases, these will usually be our ancestors, or even people that had close association with our ancestors, therefore connecting with us through our bloodline. So people that are also not directly your ancestors or directly in your bloodline, they can still be your guides, depending on the kind of relationship that they had with your ancestors. They just wouldn't be able to necessarily pass down anything to you, like spiritual gifts, the way that your predecessors would be able to pass spiritual gifts down to you. Your ancestors pass down spiritual gifts to you the same way that they pass down your physical features, and even like emotional aspects, like strengths and weaknesses that they have. Because their blood runs through your veins, they're essentially a part of you. You are a physical manifestation of them in every sense, which makes it easy to summon them, to speak to them, and to get guidance from them. Connecting with your ancestors is crucial because they have information that you don't have. They see things that you don't see. So essentially they have the foresight to protect you from harm, and they have the foresight to also light your path so that you can move in the right direction in your life. Unlike, in Christianity, which promotes the concept of angels that don't really have a connection with you, your ancestors are heavily invested in seeing you prosper, in protecting you, because you're like their child. You're essentially their child. You are a physical embodiment of them. You are the result of all of the decisions that they made, of the journey that they traveled, of their whole life experience. You are a result of everything that happened in their lives and all the decisions that they made to come to the point of your conception. So they are heavily invested in your prosperity. They're heavily invested in your protection and your health, and just making sure that you live, a good and abundant life. They're the guides that you can trust have your best interests at heart. So connecting with deities, connecting with spirit guides is done differently across cultures around the world, indigenous cultures around the world. But the African way, I think, is ultimately the same across the continent, though we may have different names for it and different ways that we do it. The fundamentals of it are ultimately the same. It's invoked through nature. It comprises of igniting or activating the 4 elements of life, which are fire, water, earth, and air. As human beings, we're made up of these 4 elements. They create a foundation for the manifestation of spiritual connection, because they create a foundation for the spirits to settle during your communication ritual. In the African creation story, the combination of these 4 elements created or creates, because creation is cyclic, it's eternal, it's constantly happening. It creates a foundation for the spirits to settle in this realm. So setting up this foundation in African culture is usually done at an altar. In Nguni culture, we call it msamo, and this ritual is also in Nguni culture called ukuphahla. It's as easy as lighting a candle to incorporate fire, which represents the world of Akut, which is the luminous horizon. You can place a glass of water at your altar, which incorporates the water element, which represents the world of Manu, which is the horizon of the waters. You can place some soil or some rocks, crystals, plants, roots, anything that's of the earth that will incorporate the earth element, which represents the world of Rosdao, which is the horizon of spirits. And lastly, the element of air, which represents the world of Ament, which is the horizon of the west. You can have a feather. A feather is a really good representation. It's my favorite air element symbol. You can burn some incense. And also, you honor this element by kneeling. That's a really great way to honor the air element. Also, the spoken word is that fourth element, is that air element, and it is a very powerful way to invoke that element. These four elements are the four worlds of creation, basically, that govern all life on earth. So in alchemy, these are the fundamentals that are the basis of all spirit work and magic. I'll go into more detail about the elements in the creation story when we do the African creation story video. So on your altar, you can also place pictures, any pictures that you may have of your ancestors or loved ones that have passed on. You can also have statues of the deities that you honor or the deities whose principles you live by. I have this statue of Ma'at. It is my ultimate favorite statue. I don't know if you can see it. Ma'at is the goddess of justice and order. I try to live by the 42 principles of Ma'at, which were summarized in the Bible and edited in the Bible as the 10 Commandments. She's just a very powerful force of righteousness. She reminds me to be good to others and to be good to myself. Just make sure that you research whatever it is that you put on your altar. Whoever's pictures, if it's pictures of relatives, if it's pictures of ancestors, if it's statues, deities, whatever you put on your altar, just make sure you research it and you know what it is that's on there, because you don't want to manifest things in your life that you don't understand. A lot of cultures and spiritual practices also value the color of candles that are used. I obviously always recommend candles, like that's like 101, always have a candle on your altar. In terms of the color, it can be personal to you. Different cultures do place values in different colors. Colors do carry frequency, so it also is about what that color means to you. For instance, I know the general, like a green candle will generally be good for fertility work, for manifesting money. But also with the green candle, in terms of manifesting money, I personally prefer to use a gold candle. Using the green candle, I feel like it manifests quick money. So if that's what you're looking to manifest, it's good for quick money. But quick money comes in, it goes out as quickly as it comes in. And if you're looking to manifest wealth, which is what I think we should all be striving for as Black people, use the gold candle. It's not as fast. It can take a while, but what you're looking for is to manifest generational wealth. Our ancestors, before white people came and introduced this economy that we're now in, our ancestors were dripping in gold. Like, there was an abundance of gold in the ground, on the ground, everywhere, in our architecture. And they also knew how to turn base materials into gold, like they could turn lead into gold. So that is something we had in abundance in the time when we were a wholesome people. So I really resonate with the color gold, and I think that it is a color that we have entitlement to, because also a majority of the gold that they have in first world countries comes from Africa, was stolen from Africa. So I think in order to manifest the return of our wealth as a collective, as African people, and also just individually, I really believe in burning the gold candle for money magic. But that's also for the patience, for those who have the patience and the will to manifest generational wealth, because it's not easy and it's not quick, but it is what is going to set you, yourself, your children, and your grandchildren, all of your descendants up to live a wholesome life, because the goal is ultimately not to slave for money anymore. So in terms of actually the spoken word and what it is that you say during this ritual, ultimately you want to maybe start by naming your ancestors, naming the guides that it is that you're evoking, that you are summoning. That is what will then summon the right spirits. Because also when you do rituals like that, if you're not intentional about what you're doing, you can actually invite the spirits in that you didn't intend to. So you have the spiritual authority when you do something like that, to ward off spirits and to invite spirits. So you go into it, when you go into it with intention. When I say name them, I mean you call them by name. What we do in our culture, we have surnames, we have our surnames going down the line. So you will have maybe your 4 basic surnames, which will be your grandfather, grandmother on your maternal side, and your grandfather, grandmother on your paternal side, and then the surnames then going down. If you have their names, you'll do their full names. As many as you can remember, and as far back as you can remember. You know, the further down you can go, the more powerful spiritual access that you have to your gifts, to your lineage, to the blessings therein. So we have surnames, and we also have what we call praise names. There's clan names, and praise names are actually a lot. Like, it's, you know, I could talk for a while about it, but basically the praise names then what makes that surname unique to you and to your ancestors, because it kind of tells the story of the journey of your ancestors and the gifts of your ancestors. Praise names can speak of geographical locations, spiritual gifts, specific achievements. If you know your praise names as an African, that's also really, really powerful, because it also gives you spiritual access to gifts that may be carried by your ancestors, or that, you know, you can unlock within those names. Words are very powerful when you're doing these rituals. They're very powerful. You can evoke so many powerful gifts and blessings. It's also important to know that deities are our ancestors too. They are the oldest ancestors, because ultimately our deities, our African gods, they are the ones that played the most fundamental roles in the creation of all life on earth. So they are the founding fathers and mothers. They fuel our spiritual and physical bodies. Once you've summoned your guides, what you have to say after that then is up to you. It's really up to you. I highly encourage expressing gratitude first. You begin with gratitude. Thank them for your health, for all of the blessings that you have. Literally count your blessings, because that's a very powerful way to raise your vibration, and to also just show them that you're not a whiny baby that's always just asking for things, asking, and never saying thank you. We know how annoying that kind of a person can be. Don't be that person. Express your gratitude. It's really good for your spirit, and it's also good for the relationship that you form with your guides. Then after that, it really is all you. It's just whatever your gut feeling, whatever your gut instinct is leading you to say, whatever your intuition leads you to say. I like to use it as a therapeutic session, you know, to express whatever it is that I'm going through in that time, because it really is like laying down your burden. I do feel a weight off of my shoulder after those sessions, and literally my problems do seem to just sort themselves out, you know, after really speaking to my guides about what it is that's stressing me out, what it is that's not working out. And, you know, so that's the time to really speak to them, to ask questions, to express your fears, desires. Like, that is the time to be as transparent as possible. So my problems do seem to just sort themselves out a lot of the time after that, after those sessions, and it is an indication to me that they really do listen and they really are there for me. And I use that time to talk about the good things, the bad things, the people that you love, the things that make you happy. Cry if you need to, and ask questions. Really do ask questions. And there's no better way to get answers to the questions that you have than to actually ask your guides, because they find creative ways to bring you the answers. Sometimes it's immediate, and sometimes it's, you know, moments, days, weeks. So the way to receive answers from them is to really just develop a relationship with them the way that you would develop a relationship with a friend, because you develop a language with them, like a mode of communication, and they will also, you know, you teach them how it is that you understand things, the way that you process things. They adapt their way of communicating to the way that you also receive messages best. You develop a language, you know. It's really important to listen, pay attention to the signs, because you'll get a gut feeling whenever a communication, or it's a message from, you know, other realms. When it's a message from your guides, you really do feel it. You get that gut feeling, and you know that this is actually a sign, or this is sent specifically directly for me in this time, as an answer to a question that I asked them, or as an answer to a problem that I was, you know, expressing, something that, you know, was really worrying me. It's really about developing a language more than anything. And there's so many different types of languages, and different ways that they express, different ways that they communicate, for different people as well. And it really will be unique to you and your guides, but there are also ways, like general ways, like through dreams. You'll find that there are healers that do dream interpretations, or people that are just really gifted with dream interpretations. If you tell them, oh, I dreamt about this and this, and they can tell you instantly, oh, this is what it means, or they can put together the map, because that is a mode of communication from the spirit realm, from your guides. There's also people that use candle light and candle wax as a language to receive messages from spirit. They analyze the way that the candle light burns and the way that the wax burns. There's people that really are really good at deciphering what those different things mean. Then there's people who read tea leaves and coffee beans, but then that's going into kind of the divining side of things. There's tarot cards, angel cards. There's different cards that people also use. I really like to use tarot cards. I find them to be like a hack to receiving messages, because it's kind of instant. Different cards represent different meanings and messages, and they can be really specific. They are diviners if you are somebody who actually wants an interceder, an intermediary between you and your guides. You can see diviners, healers, people who actually communicate regularly, who have actually gone through processes to open up the portal that allows them to communicate directly with the spirit realm and to see them and to hear them. There are people that do that. But ultimately, I don't recommend running to intermediaries, because ultimately, unless it's some kind of spiritual emergency, ultimately you just need to trust yourself and trust the relationship that you're developing. Because also there's people that like to consult regularly with healers, and that can be a hindrance to your relationship with your guides, and it can slow the process down of you really developing a relationship with your guides, because it really is about communicating with them and listening to them. That's how any relationship is built. So like I said, in my culture, this ritual or this practice is called ukupahla. Tell me what it's called in your culture. How is it done in your culture? I'm really interested to know. I'm really interested in discussions about the diversity of this ritual across cultures, because it also then ultimately reveals how similar it is and how it is actually the same. Because although it's done differently across cultures, it ultimately comes down to the fundamental elements of nature that allow us access to other realms. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. I hope that this is enough information for those who did request this video. If I left anything out, please do say. Obviously, I spoke mostly on what it is in my culture and then the fundamentals that go into it. But I would like to hear from people in other cultures how it's done in your culture. If you haven't subscribed to this channel already, please do subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching.